By August 2026, a brutal heat dome had settled over the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures soared, humidity vanished, and the region's forests became a tinderbox. Then, the Old Trails Fire exploded. The blaze tore through more than 3,600 acres of land outside Spokane, Washington. In its wake, it left nearly 700 structures completely destroyed and forced tens of thousands of residents to flee their homes. For the families living on streets like Skyline Drive, the inferno consumed everything they owned in a matter of minutes, leaving local firefighters to battle overwhelming odds just to extinguish the smoldering foundations. The extreme climate conditions primed the landscape to burn, but the spark that leveled these neighborhoods was an engineered act of sabotage. Days after the Old Trails Fire began, investigators arrested Farinacci on suspicion of first-degree arson. During a 90-minute interrogation, the scale of his crimes became clear. Farinacci admitted to igniting the Old Trails Fire and 25 other blazes over the previous year. This map shows his geographic footprint. Over 13 months, he systematically ignited 25 distinct fires, primarily targeting the dense brush near his apartment complex, along the Spokane River, and the heavily trafficked Centennial Trail. Farinacci targeted heavily populated suburban corridors. To understand how he sustained this campaign, we have to trace his specific encounters with law enforcement long before the Old Trails Fire. The arson campaign started in July 2025. When questioned by detectives, Farinacci explained his actions in stark terms. He viewed fire as powerful, beautiful, and a necessary mechanism for rebirth. He already had a history of extreme violence. In 2010, following an argument over household chores, Farinacci fatally shot his father in Arizona, eventually pleading guilty to manslaughter and serving a decade in prison. Following his release, he began studying the methodologies of other criminals. He specifically researched John Leonard Orr, a former fire captain who secretly set thousands of fires across Southern California in the 1980s and 90s. Farinacci anticipated being stopped by the police. To prepare, he consistently carried marijuana and cigarettes, providing himself with a rehearsed alibi for having multiple lighters in his pockets during the dry season. He also learned to build low-tech time delay devices. Using a simple combination of notebook paper, matches, a rubber band, and a lit cigarette, he could plant an ignition source in the brush and walk away long before the flames ever appeared. Farinacci was a methodical planner, refining a repeatable formula to maximize destruction while evading immediate suspicion. Farinacci exploited a critical weakness in regional law enforcement, the lack of interagency intelligence sharing. On July 6, 2025, police responded to the Wildfire. They found Farinacci sitting on a nearby boulder, claiming he was injured. They questioned him, but let him go. 2 days later, on July 8th, the Copper River Fire broke out. A Spokane police officer found Farinacci sitting on a rock near the flames. He deployed his marijuana alibi and was released again. On August 11th, at the Equestrian Fire, Washington state troopers found him out of breath on a park bench. They photographed his Arizona ID and his Bic lighters, but made no arrest. Nearly a year later, on July 24, 2026, a Department of Natural Resources investigator photographed Farinacci walking away from the Indian Bluff fire, carrying a backpack and gloves. Local police, state troopers, and environmental investigators all encountered the same man under suspicious circumstances. But because they operated in silos, the individual reports never merged to reveal the overarching pattern. Free to operate, Farinacci waited for the environment to become a weapon. By August 1, 2026, he was actively monitoring the National Weather Service, tracking forecasts for peak danger. He watched for a red flag warning, an official advisory signaling critically low humidity and powerful winds. Farinacci later told detectives he specifically targeted these conditions to overwhelm local fire suppression efforts. He planted his device near the railroad tracks and ignited the Old Trails Fire. But this time, his luck ran out. A civilian witness spotted him acting suspiciously in the brush and immediately reported his description to the authorities. Cornered by police, Farinacci initially planned to force a lethal standoff. Instead, he chose to feign innocence. Over the course of a 90-minute interrogation, his alibis unraveled, and he fully confessed to the 13-month campaign. The destruction in Spokane was the work of a patient predator. waiting for the exact environmental trigger required to maximize the damage. In the weeks following the arrest, emergency crews sifted through the toxic materials left in the arsonist's wake, digging through the ash of destroyed neighborhoods. The impact extended far beyond the burn zones. Massive smoke clouds blanketed the Pacific Northwest, temporarily giving the region the worst air quality on Earth. For the tens of thousands of residents displaced by the Old Trails fire, the physical and emotional toll is permanent. Hundreds of families lost everything they had built, reduced to ash by a single deliberate act. Safeguarding communities against modern megafires relies on connecting localized forensic intelligence, identifying patterns in the data before the first spark is struck.